Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the DFS Army Killshot podcast. I am Kyle Marley, and with me this week is Adam Martin from MMA Oddsbreaker and Bookies.com, and we're going to break down this UFC Vegas 63 card for you guys today. Adam has been around in the MMA handicapping streets for a long time, and he's been around DFS since the old counter move days. So I'm excited to have him on the show, talk about this card. How you doing today, Adam, and how you feeling about this free card this weekend?
Doing great, Kyle. Man, we've been friends for a long time. Like you said, going back to counter move. Like we used to talk about that. I love that site, by the way. That was
yeah, me too.
And the games were so soft too, Kyle. Like But anyways, I'm looking forward to chatting about this card. Like you said, honestly not the greatest card, but still got 11 fights to talk about. So nothing.
Yeah, and there's 100K up top on DraftKings, which always gets me motivated. So hopefully we'll win some money, and it'll be a good card that way. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, let's get right into it. The first fight of the night, we got the late fight that was added in the last day or two. Christian Rodriguez, minus 365. He was on the card, but Joshua Weems is stepping up to make his UFC debut. He is plus 300. I was impressed with Christian Rodriguez's debut on short notice against Jonathan Pierce, and now I think this is a step down. To me, it kind of seems like a submission or bust fight for Weems. But how are you seeing this curtain jerker this weekend?
No, for sure. And honestly, I kind of forgot who he was, right? And then I'm like, all right, he's the guy that got knocked out by Fernie Garcia. And he does have, some, like you said, some nice submission wins. He just submitted Mo Miller on the regional scene. Like, I guess he deserves a shot in the UFC, but I'm still not convinced, right? Like, I need to see more from this guy. And honestly, I'm not going to lie, Kyle, I go and see his nickname Wide Open. I go, man, this guy's wide, his chin's wide open. Like, we just saw that on Contender Series. So, don't know if that's why he called himself that. But listen, I mean, Rodriguez should win this fight, right? He should win this fight. We have odds, right? Yeah. So
minus 365.
Yeah. Sorry. I see it right now. It just came up today. I guess today, right? We have two new fights, right, Kyle? So I just did my other podcast with Marcel on Monday, and we're like, what fights are we going? Who are these guys going to fight? Because he had told me that they're going to fight someone. Anyways, I'm with you. Rodriguez should win. He's a big chalk for a reason. Is there a price on DraftKings yet for?
No, I'm guessing that they're going to add him in as the most expensive. Put Rodriguez at 9,400 and Weems at 6,800.
I mean that makes sense, right? Like Rodriguez is talented, man. Listen, I know he obviously lost to Jonathan Pierce, but that Jonathan Pierce, I think he's really good. He's fighting Darren Elkins coming up. He probably wins that fight too. He's a really good fighter. That was kind of an interesting fight, right? Like a lot of submission attempts, like you said, but eventually just ends up going the distance. I thought he looked pretty good on Contender too. That fight with Jiro Cortez was actually quite a good fight, and I thought Dana should have signed him off the show, but he didn't get the finish, right, Kyle? We know you just have to finish the fight in Contender. You get a contract.
I think he missed weight too. I watched that today, and he might have missed weight by like 1 pound, so that's probably another reason he didn't.
I think it was like half a pound or 1 pound, like you said, but. Yeah. Listen, they sent him back to the regional scene. He got the win. He got the short notice fight in the UFC, and now he's got. I got to be honest with you. I think it is an easier fight than Garrett Armfield too. I thought Armfield kind of was a live dog in that fight. Like I think that guy's. I think he's better than Weems. Anyways, we've spent too long on this fight. Rodriguez wins. The question is, how does he win? And we've seen this guy get knocked out. Probably a stoppage. I mean, all of his losses are by knockout. I'm thinking Rodriguez can knock him out. What do you think?
Yeah, that's what I picked. I picked Rodriguez by TKO. I think he does. His biggest edge in this fight should be on the feet, and he can win with the knockout or just dominate all 3 rounds, I think, on the feet as well. And I liked Rodriguez's ground game. I think he could have success on the ground if he wanted to, but that's where I see him putting himself into danger. So I'd say the smart game plan would go out there, stay where you're comfortable, just 1-2s on the feet all day, might get a knee knockout, something like that. But I do like his striking quite a bit, and I think that the knockout is really why we would be playing him on DraftKings, because if he's putting himself in danger by going to the ground, he's not going to rack up takedowns in this fight. So we would really need the knockout because I don't see him putting enough volume to score 100+ in the decision here. So maybe it's knockout or bust on DraftKings for Rodriguez, but I'm willing to take some shots on him because he's really well-rounded. If he wanted to land some takedowns, I think he could do that because Weems didn't look like he had the greatest takedown defense. He just looked like he was pretty solid from the bottom. But on the Weems side, submission or bust. If you think he gets the submission, play him. He'll be low owned. But I'd say it's going to be Rodriguez or pass for me.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right, next one on the card we have Carlos Mata minus 170 against Cody Durden plus 145. Durden opened as the slight favorite in this one, and the line shifted over to Mata. I thought Mata looked pretty good on the feet. He's fast, he's powerful, got hands, got kicks as well. But I think the wrestling would be on the Durden side. I saw Mata throwing up submissions off his back, but he didn't get anything. He doesn't have any submissions to his record. So I do think the grappling and the wrestling favors Durden. The striking favors Mata. But who do you got in this one, and how do you see it going down?
I like the matchup. I think this guy's a good fighter, man. Like, it's just the situation is not ideal, right? With super short notice. What is it? 5 days notice, 6 days notice. And if he had a full camp, without hesitation, I'm picking him in this fight. But because it's such short notice, it just makes me wonder a little bit. Like, Durden he's not a scrub. Okay, he's not a bad fighter. He's like you said, good wrestling, and he's training an American top team, right? Like, he's training with the best. Every time I see this guy post a picture on Instagram, he's with Dustin Poirier or something. Like, he's training with the best guys in the world. And I love that camp, Kyle. Like, bet on guys from American top team over time, you're profitable. There's no doubt about it. That is a good camp. I think Mata's really good. Like, for what I've seen, like, very powerful. But some of the competition's not great, right? Like, this is almost okay. The Charles Johnson fight earlier this year, that was a crazy fight. Johnson's probably slightly better than Durden, like, or they're on the same level. So the last two guys that he's fought are not great. Like, actually, I do some work for this regional promotions, in this North Iowa fights, the fight he had 2 fights ago. The guy was awful that he fought. So I just question the level of competition a little bit, but I still think the guy's super talented. I'm going to pick Mata. I can't lay the juice on him though because of the short notice. So I have to pass on this one. I do think he's the better fighter. That's why I'm going to pick him. But again, 1 week's notice, less than that, against the guy with 5 fights in the UFC, who's honestly, he's probably exceeded my expectations a little bit, Cody Durden. I didn't even know if he'd win 1 fight. He's won 2 of them, and he had a draw too, right? So maybe you're honest, Kyle. Maybe like especially from fantasy, like maybe it's dog or pass. Maybe it is. What do you think?
Yeah, I kind of think so, especially for fantasy. Mata, I see as another knockout or bust type play because he's probably not going to go out there looking for takedowns if he's not going to get a submission on the ground. Then it's just Durden that has the chance to score points there, and he averages over 4 takedowns per 15 minutes, which you love to see on DraftKings. So with Mata, the only way I see him getting 100 plus is a knockout.
Yeah.
I'm not going to completely fade that. I think he's definitely live to get it. But I'm not going to have too much exposure there, and I would much rather have Durden, the guy who is an underdog at 7,700, who can 10x his price tag in a decision as long as he's going out there and wrestling throughout the fight. I think it would be smart of him to wrestle early, slow down Mata when he's taking this fight on short notice. He'll be less powerful as the fight moves along. So, yeah, I'm on the Durden side here. I picked him to get the win. It was a lot of the short notice. I think it's closer to a 50-50 fight, so I'd rather just take the underdog. But on DraftKings, I think it's even more dog or pass because he's the one that should be looking for takedowns here. And that's what we like on DraftKings. So
we love the takedowns, control time. We love it. The strikes on the ground.
And that's his clearest path to victory here. So if he's smart, which I don't know that he is, but if he's smart, he'll go out there and score well on DraftKings.
And I think in his wins, he's done well on DraftKings, right? Like the JP Bays win was like it was just over a minute. I guess you don't get that bonus. But.
Yeah, that one. I mean, he dominated Bays early, but he had 5 takedowns in a high-paced fight over Aori Keeling. So I think that, especially if you're trying to push the pace against someone on short notice, just go out there, wrestle heavy, especially early. Like, let this guy up if you want to get him down again. Just take as much energy as you can out of this guy. I mean, I don't think Durden has the greatest gas tank either, but he's the guy who's got a full training camp at least, and he should be looking to grapple.
I'm with you on this one, man. So, like, you're right. Like, again, I'm going to pick Mota because, again, I do think he's the better fighter, but because of the short notice and everything, it's the dog or pass situation. So I think we're on the same page.
Hell yeah. All right, next one on the card, we have Chase Hooper. What are the odds at on this one? Minus 270 against Steve Garcia, plus 230. I mean, I kind of agree with the odds here. I think this is a setup fight for Chase Hooper. His biggest edge on this fight is going to be on the ground or backpack this guy, take his neck. He's just got a huge grappling edge in this fight. His striking looks like it's improving as well. I would not want to see him striking with Steve Garcia if I roster him on DraftKings or if I bet him at this price. I think we're completely paying for the grappling here, but he fights at a high pace and he's a finisher. He can get a submission or a ground and pound stoppage on the ground. Do you think this line is warranted? Are you picking him?
All week it was like sitting at minus 210, and all of a sudden the last couple of days it's like really shot up. And I get it though, right? Like I don't really rate Steve Garcia too highly, man. Like he is an experienced guy. He's fought for Bellator now the UFC. Obviously, he's got some power. We've seen that, but I don't know, man. The chin, first off, is to me, very questionable after that last fight, which was up a weight class too. He's going to cut weight now. Like, he's a guy who's fought at 135, but he's had like health issues. That's why he doesn't fight those lower weight classes. Now he's going back to 145 for this fight against a guy in Chase Hooper who's only, 20. Actually, he has the same birthday as me. That's crazy. He's 23 years old. He just turned 23. We have the same birthday, which is funny. Of course, he's 11 years younger than me, Kyle. So, I mean, the guy's a baby, and he's been in the UFC since, 18 years old? I haven't been, listen, he's been up and down, as you know, some of the fights, like the Caceres fight, even the Barrett fight, which he did win, he didn't look great. But that last fight against Collares, who is a very tough dude, I don't think he's been finished. And the way he finished him brutally in the third round, very impressive. And to me, it shows that he's getting to that next level in his career. I think he wins, man. I think you're right. The price you're paying for the grappling, but that's how this fight should go, right? I don't think Garcia can keep it standing, man. I think it goes to the ground. And I think Hooper, controls Garcia. And honestly, I think he probably finishes him. What do you think about that? You think a finish too?
Yeah, I kind of see him getting a submission or just taking his back, flattening him out, getting a ground and pound stoppage from the ref, something like that. But I mean, if you're going to let Luis Pena control the fight for 14 of 15 minutes, just backpacking him the entire time, I mean, that's Hooper's specialty. So I just don't know how you're going to improve so much where Hooper's not going to have success there. So even if he can't get takedowns, he's going to end up taking that back. And I think the neck will be there at some point, or he'll flatten him out, like I mentioned. So I do like him to get the finish. And I just like the pace that he can fight at. He landed 4 takedowns, had 7+ minutes of control time, and got a finish in that last fight. So I do like Hooper. He'll be one of my favorite pay up options on the slate. I think he's fine in all formats, cash, GPP. I haven't built lineups yet, but I would imagine I'll be overweight to the field on Hooper. Yeah. And I really don't have interest in Garcia. I mean, he's got a knockout shot because Hooper doesn't have the greatest striking defense, but Garcia doesn't have the greatest chin himself. I mean, he's been knocked down 4 times in his last 2 fights. I wouldn't expect Hooper to go out there and get a knockout, but he should be improving every time out at his age, and maybe he can have success on the feet here. So, yeah, pretty much Hooper or pass for me all around.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think he wins for sure. And like I said, I think he finishes the fight. So we'll chase Hooper in this one. And like you said, probably go a bit overweight on him, right?
Yeah, I think so. If I can, I mean, I haven't built the lineups, but he's not too expensive. So I would imagine I'll be able to. Next one on the card, we have Jun Young Park -240 against Joseph Holmes +200. I think both sides of this are in play. I am going to pick Park because he has more ways to win. I think he is the better striker, more powerful striker too, I would say. And he's just the better wrestler who can dictate where this fight takes place. I think Holmes needs a finish, whether it is a knockout on the feet. We did see Park get knocked out by Gregory Rodriguez, but I just think Gregory Rodriguez has different power. I don't see Holmes doing that to him. And I would think it'd be more likely a submission if Holmes is to win, which could happen if Park is going out there getting takedowns, maybe putting his neck at risk. But I'm picking Park in this one. How do you see it going down?
Yeah, I think so too. I think he's the better fighter, right? Again, Holmes shown some potential, right? But I mean, what do we take from beating Alan Amidowski? The guy's the worst middleweight in the UFC, right? It's not a good win. It's not a quality win, as I like to say. And the fight with Jamie Pickett, I mean, he lost. And Jamie Pickett is a guy that they just tried to feed a Bo Nickel, right? Or I guess they rebooked that fight. Park is solid, right? He's just solid everywhere. Like you said, decent striking, good wrestling. He's had some crazy fights in the UFC. The last fight was pretty close. The striking was the difference in that fight. He stopped a lot of takedowns from Eric Andrews. A lot of fence pushing in that fight. It wasn't the most exciting fight, but he got the job done. That's the thing. This guy is getting the job done. I think he wins the fight. I think the odds are. I think it's a market price for him. I wouldn't say there's value, but I think -2. That's kind of where I cap it. So I think he gets the job done. And for fantasy, I don't know, because I'm not sure about the fantasy aspect of this one, because I think if you want to play him, he has to get takedowns, but Holmes might be able to keep it standing, and it could be a slower, maybe a medium paced striking battle. That's kind of what I'm thinking. I don't know. What do you think here, Kyle?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm interested in him because he can land takedowns, and if he's staying safe from the submissions, he can score well in a decision, I think. But it's also not a must play. I'm not going to force him into any of my lineups because I could see him winning, a striking based decision and scoring 70 points or something like that, which will kill you at 9,300. So it'll be if I can afford them, I'll throw them in. And same thing on Holmes. If I need to go down to 6,900 to get the other 5 spots that I like in my lineup, then I'm fine doing that as well. It's a fight that I'm just okay targeting either side of, but my preferred play is going to be Park because I'm picking him to win because I think he has more ways to win and more ways to score well. So I'm going with Park there, and it won't be a first or second spot in my lineup. It would be more like, all right, let's see how this lineup's going. Okay, we could spend up in a couple spots. Let's see how Park goes here. But I could see me being around field weight if lineups allow it, because there's a couple plays on this fight that I'm really just not too interested in. So I like to narrow down my player pool as much as I can, to be honest.
Right, that's fair. That's totally fair.
All right, next fight on the card we have. What is it here? Oh, Arlovsky fight. Okay, we got Marcos Rogerio de Lima minus 240 against Andre Arlovsky plus 200. This is one of those fights that I really want to avoid. How do you see it going down? Do you think this line is warranted?
Not really, to be honest with you. I kind of feel like this is a dogger pass one. Definitely dogger pass. Like, yeah, de Lima's got some power. He could clip Arlovsky. Obviously, Arlovsky's been knocked out many times. We know that, but I don't know. Like, these odds seem off to me. To be honest with you, I look at this as like a really close fight. Like, he's been an underdog a lot, and he's pulled off a lot of wins as an underdog, or like lower odds. And I think this is another situation where he can win the fight by decision if he doesn't get knocked out. Right? Like, that's the worry. It's either he gets clipped in that first round probably by de Lima, or he survives and then takes over and wins the decision, like just by getting on his bike, backing up, getting just outstriking de Lima from range over 15 minutes. So there's not like a lot of dogs I'm picking out right in this card, but this is one of them. I'm gonna go with Arlovsky. I think he wins the decision. Like, again, it's heavyweight, so like from fantasy perspective, like heavyweight fights obviously are something to target, but I kind of feel like he would win by decision. So I don't know if I love him that much. But since he's a dog, I'll probably have to put him in the lineup. But I get it. De Lima probably has the better fantasy values because he has that first round knockout power. I just my pick is Arlovsky to win decision though. Any thoughts?
I agree again. Yeah, he's one of my favorite underdog picks, just on the money line. Anyways, I think this line is too wide. The first round would be the biggest sweat. If you can avoid that knockout shot like he has the last 3 years, he's fighting smarter because he's been TKO'd 11 times in his career. He had to fight smarter, and he is the better point fighting guy over the course of 3 rounds, in my opinion. I think he can even take the first round, but I would think second and third round are more so his. Either guy could land takedowns and have success in top control, but Arlovsky's got good takedown defense. I actually think Arlovsky's more likely to land a takedown, maybe spend 4 minutes in top control or something like that. But he's not much of a scorer on DraftKings, so I would rather target higher ceilings. I'm not going to X him out of my player pool because he's an underdog. I'm picking to win. Yeah. But he probably won't end up in my single entry lineup because I just don't see him having any shot at 100 plus points here in this fight. I do think that Rogerio de Lima does have the shot at 100 plus points. So even though I'm picking him to lose, I'm more interested in him just shooting for ceilings, trying to win 100K. I would rather put him in a single entry lineup, but it's really just DraftKings that I'd be interested in that, and it's shooting for the ceiling. But I'm also not going to want a ton of Rogerio de Lima because I'm picking Andre Arlovsky to win. So that's another reason I think I'll be overweight to Hooper. I'll probably be able to afford some Park. I'll be underweight, I'm guessing, to this fight as a whole. Another, last spot lineup if I need either guy, something like that.
Yeah, that's fair. I kind of agree with you on that one.
Yeah, I'm usually never interested in Andre Arlovsky fights on DraftKings. They just tend to go slower, and it just takes the optimal lineup potential out of it. I feel like on both sides usually.
I mean, I'm checking right now. His last 10 wins are by decision. Like, there's no upside really, right? That's the problem here.
Yeah, I think there was like one fight, maybe it was against Rothwell, where he had really high volume, He
He actually
scored
did
well
well.
in that fight,
Yeah,
but
yeah, that's like the only one, right?
you don't want to rely on a 43-year-old Arlovsky to be landing volume out there. So yeah, just a
No, not
spot
at all.
where if I need him as my last spot, I'm fine with it. But there's other underdogs who I'm picking to lose who I think have higher ceilings. I'd rather just take my chances on them on DraftKings. And if I'm looking to bet the fight, I would just take the money line on Arlovsky.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
All right, this next one on the card I do like. We got Phil Hawes minus 170 against Roman Dolidze plus 145. Fight doesn't go to decision, only minus 120. I think that's a little low. I could see it being a little bit higher. Both sides could finish, in my opinion. I like this fight quite a bit, but for me, more so on the Hawes side. I just think he's the more talented fighter. I worry about his chin mostly. His cardio can be suspect at times, but if his chin holds up, then I like his cardio to do the same. I think he's the better wrestler, better striker, more powerful guy. So I am on Hawes here. How do you see it going down?
Yeah, he's my pick too. Like you said, I think he's the better fighter, more well-rounded. I think good. Like the last fight, he looked really good in. Uh, Obviously taking a short opponent where you could do those like crazy elbows too, but man, he looked good. Um, Overall, I think he's looked good in the UFC. You know, like the one fight against Curtis, he was looking great early on, and then got clipped. Right, that's the worry with him. His chin is not great.
Mm-hmm.
He's taking on a guy that can knock you out with a knee. The Lazy is a very very powerful guy, as you know. That fight with Kyle Dawkins was brutal. They both have a common win over Kyle Dawkins, which is interesting actually. That was just a brutal win though. He looked really powerful in that fight. I don't know, like it doesn't do it much for me, Lazy, but he's definitely effective. He's 4-1 in the UFC. I'm passing on this one. I'm picking Hawes though. That's my pick because I do think he's the better overall fighter. But I don't know, man. Like, there's definitely a chance he could get knocked out, so I'm going to stay away from it. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think the knockout is what puts Dolidze in play, actually, because Hawes can be put out in any round. He's got a real suspect chin, and Dolidze has big time power. So he's a guy that I would rather put in. I would imagine Hawes is more likely to be in my single entry, but just ceiling for ceiling, I would rather target a Dolidze who I'm picking to lose over an Arlovsky who I'm picking to win, because I think if Arlovsky wins, he scores 60 points. If Dolidze wins, he could score 100 points. So I'm shooting for the ceilings. So I would rather have Hawes in my lineups, but if Hawes isn't there, then I'm gonna have. There's a good chance Dolidze will be. This will be one of my favorite fights on the card. I would worry a bit about Hawes' score if he doesn't get a finish here, but I do think he's the better wrestler, and he could go out there and land takedowns when he wants to, so he can score well in a decision, especially if his cardio holds up. So I'm just going to be mostly on the Hawes side. I'll be overweight to him, and then depending on how low Dolidze comes in, I'd like to match the field on him, to be honest with you, also, and just be heavy on this fight in general, with Hawes being my leverage play.
So you're convinced it doesn't go the distance, eh? This one,
But I'm at the same time, I mean, Vegas only has it minus 120 to
right?
not go to the
That's
decision.
why I was
I would have
asking you.
said that should be over minus 150.
Well,
So
there's value on that. So yeah, I kind of feel like you're right with the power and the chins involved here. Like someone probably does get put out. And, um, I could see going either, like really either guy could finish the fight. Like Hawes has got power too. There's but
yeah, big power.
yeah, for
And he
sure.
looked great. Like you mentioned in his last fight, his striking is just on point. If his chin holds up, man, he's good.
Yeah, that's the question, right? Does his chin hold up? But if it does, then he wins.
Yep, let's go Hawes. He'll be, I would say he'll, because of his price tag. I mean, he's not highly priced, 8,400. I would guess he's going to be one of my highest owned fighters on the card.
Fair enough.
Next one on the card, we got a Striker's Delight. Dustin Jacoby minus 170 against Khalil Roundtree Jr. plus 145. How you see this one going down? Who you like in this one?
I like Jacoby in this fight, man. The guy's Mr. Consistent, right? Like he's very hard to beat. He's 7-0-1 in his last 8. Very impressive. That's contender at UFC. Actually, he's won. Well, he had 2 other wins too before that, so he's on like a really nice undefeated streak right now. I think he's looked like great since he came back to the UFC. Really good striking, as we know, like great technically, and then he's got power. And he's shown that he's got 3 knockouts in those fights. That last fight is Jung. I mean, I'm pretty high on Jung, and he cleaned his clock good, man. Like that was very impressive. So he's just, to me, he's Mr. Consistent, whereas Roundtree's Mr. Inconsistency, right? Like, what do you don't know what to get from this guy. I mean, I've bet on him in some fights, and he's come through for me, but this is one where I don't really like him because he's just so up and down. Like, very hard to rack up a win streak. He's never had more than 2 in a row, which he has now. I don't know. Like I don't trust Khalil Roundtree, man, and I feel like he can break in fights too. I just feel better about what I'm getting from Dustin. You know, I feel like you're getting a more well-rounded striker, fighter, and I think he's got the ability to keep this fight at his range. And I think he can even knock Roundtree. I mean, either I can knock each other out. Let's be honest. Like they're two powerful dudes. But I'm leaning towards Jacoby to get the finish in this fight. So that's what I'm looking at. And I obviously like him for fantasy because I mean he's a light heavyweight who I think is going to get the job done by knockout. I think this is another fight for fantasy for sure. I don't see it going 3 rounds, Kyle.
Yeah, and it's priced right in the mid-range, which I like. Usually Jacoby's like closer to 9K, which is harder for a striker to pay off, so I don't usually have exposure to Jacoby, but at 8,300, he does land over 5 significant strikes per minute. He strikes at a high pace, and he doesn't have to worry about the takedowns coming at him in this fight, so he should be striking at an even higher pace unless he's worried about the power from Roundtree. So I think Jacoby is playable. I also think he is the better striker, the more consistent striker. That's how I broke it down. Is just I'm picking Jacoby because he is the better, more proven kickboxer, and he's consistent. He goes out there, shows you the same guy each time out, where that is just not the case with Roundtree. Roundtree is one of the scariest strikers in the UFC when he wants to be, but it's only flashes of it. That guy just doesn't usually show up. I do want some Roundtree exposure because when he does show up, he scores over 100 points with an early knockout. Jacoby was getting pieced up a little bit before he got that knockout in his last fight. It wouldn't shock me to see Roundtree get one here. So I'll get some exposure there. And same thing on the Jacoby side. I do think that's his only path to 100 points would be a knockout. But at 8,300 and 7,900, we don't have to have 100 points. And there's only like 11 fights on this card. So I do think that puts him more in play than usual. I'll have a little bit of both sides. I would guess I'm heavier on Jacoby, but if I need the extra 400, I'm fine moving down to Roundtree if that helps me get up to like, Hooper or someone else that I like on the card. So fine with either side, but I agree with you. I'm picking Jacoby to win. Just consistency, high volume, should get it done on the feet.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right. Next one on the card, we got 2 more strikers. We got Josh Fremd minus 155 against Tresean Gore, plus 135. Break this one down for me. How do you see this one going down? This is one of the ones on the card that I'm least interested in, like, because I don't know. I don't feel good about either side, to be honest with you. And I'm more so picking Fremd because I trust Gore less, I guess.
No, I agree. I mean, how do you trust Gore after the last fight? Like the way he got knocked out was just not a good look. I don't know. He just doesn't look in the UFC, and he doesn't have much experience, right? He has six fights, or 5 if you want to, like, depending on who you ask. Because sometimes they include those tough fights. The guy just has no experience, man. And to me, he hasn't looked that good in the UFC. And like his ROI is like it's beyond negative, right? Like if you've been betting on him, you're way down. How can you back this guy? You can't back him. Maybe in the future if he gets better and he shows those improvements, but right now, like I couldn't back this dude. There's no way. Whereas Fremd, he's obviously coming off that loss to Hernandez, but it's not like that's a bad fighter to lose to. And like I think the guy's shown some good skills outside the UFC. That's why he got the call. He's not perfect. He can be knocked out. He got knocked out by Rodriguez. It was a brutal knockout in LFA. But the guy is huge for the division. I think he's the better fighter. And again, he's got more experience. He has 12 fights compared to 6. All those things lead me to picking him for sure. Definitely going with Josh Fremd in this fight. The odds, I mean, I think it's in the bettable range, man. I gotta be honest with you, Kyle. Minus 155, like he's, I think, the better fighter. He could get chin checked. We've seen that, right? But this is a fade on Gore for me, man. I'm fading Gore. I don't think the guy is UFC caliber. And anyways, yeah, that's my thoughts on this one. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm picking Fremd. I picked him by knockout, which is what makes me like him a little bit on DraftKings. I think he's in play for a submission as well, because if this fight hits the ground, I just think he's the more dangerous guy there. But both guys are primarily strikers. I don't see a big pace being set by either guy, so it's mostly the KO that we're shooting for in this one. Gore really just has, I mean, he's got decent boxing. He's got heavy kicks, but he's just walking forward. He's got no footwork. He's really not trying to wrestle out there. So it's just the knockout that you're shooting for there with him. And I'd rather take shots elsewhere since I'm picking him to lose. I'd rather take at least guys that are going to grapple or who I think have a better chance at the knockout. And then Fremd is plus 165 inside the distance, which isn't bad. But at the same time, I would rather pay up for other fighters who I just feel more comfortable with. I didn't love what I saw from Fremd either. I just liked it more than I saw from Gore. So that's what led me to a pick on him. I'd say the line's about right. 60% chance on Fremd. That's not bad to me, but I ideally just get away from this fight on DraftKings and hope that it goes to a decision, a striking-based decision. And if that's the case, I don't think I have to worry about who wins. They probably don't end up on the optimal lineup. So that's going to be the path that I'm taking as of now. But I'm not going to X him out of my 150 player pool just because that knockout could come from either guy, and it could be early and just break the slate. So it'll be more so, 150 builds, not my hand builds.
You're right. As much as I am to fade Gore, like from a betting perspective, fantasy is different, as you know, Kyle. Like it's a different beast, and you can't completely fade him in DFS, right? Like this fight, someone's probably gonna get knocked out. So I'm with you on that. I think it's a shrewd move to definitely play someone in this field in this fight. If you think there's a finish coming, which I think we both think is definitely the most likely way this fight ends.
Yeah, and I mean, neither one of us like Tresean Gore. Nobody else is going to like Tresean Gore either, which is going to make him low owned on DraftKings. So when he does go out there, get a first round knockout, nobody's going to have him. So that's just a path to 100K. One that doesn't, you don't love putting them in your lineup, but it could absolutely work out for you at low ownership, at a low price. So yeah, more of an MME thing for me. I don't see me putting him in a hand build with 10 or less lineups, but I'm fine with 10% or something like that if I'm making 150.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Next one on the card. I do have interest in this one on DraftKings. We got Waldo Cortez Acosta minus 195 against Jared Vanderaa plus 165. Fight doesn't go to a decision, minus 280. That's what I like about it. I think both these guys could finish, and that's what I'm targeting. I don't expect this fight to go to a decision. Winner probably scores well. I'll take Cortez to get the knockout here, but I'd assume that's most people's pick. How do you see it going down?
I mean, how do you pick Jared Vanderaa right now, right? After those 4 straight losses, the guy just looked bad. He just looked terrible. The guy got knocked out by Chase Sherman in devastating fashion. Like, he made Chase win a bonus. Like, when was the last time Chase Sherman won a performance of the night bonus? And Chase looked amazing in that fight, right? Like, that's the thing, Kyle. Like, the striking defense is non-existent. I'll give you the guy credit. He is fucking tough as hell. He's got a good chin. He did get knocked out, but I still think he showed a good chin before the knockout. Like, anyone's going to get finished, like, from that shot, right? Like, after 3 rounds of just absorbing 137 significant strikes. Like, the guy, he's absorbing almost 6 strikes per minute. I mean, it's just, you can't have a long career like that, Kyle. And Waldo Cortez Acosta is like this just absolute destroyer. He looked, I thought, great on Contender, obviously, in that one win over Danilo, I think you call it like Swatch or something, his last name, but Suzarch or something. I can't remember how to pronounce the guy's name. He looked good in that fight. I mean, the guy is not great, but like he's not horrible either. And he was a champion in Aris FC or whatever, and he went there and knocked him out brutally. And that's kind of what I think happens here. The only question is, Kyle, like, what happens if he doesn't knock him out, right? Then what? Then how's his gas tank going to hold up? That's the thing. We don't have a ton of answers about that. Like, we did see his fight in LFA where he did go pretty long. So there's always that chance that he could survive the fight and then come back late. Vanderaa, I mean, it's possible he could survive and then come back late. But overall, I think Cortez can match him pretty much everywhere. And I think he knocks him out probably. So, yeah, like you said, from DFS, you have to play it because, again, the inside distance line is minus 280. So Vegas thinks someone's getting knocked out. I think someone's getting knocked out. I think it'll be Jared Vanderaa getting knocked out.
Yeah, I agree. And both these guys can fight at a high pace. And you mentioned if he doesn't get the knockout, that's what puts Vanderaa in play because Vanderaa can hang just volume-wise on the feet. And if he gets a takedown, I don't know what Acosta is going to look like off his back here. I think Vanderaa could have a lot of success landing ground and pound if he's able to get in top control here. So I'm definitely cool with some Vandera exposure. I don't see him being very owned. I would like to be overweight to him just in case, but it's going to be more of a hedge because I am picking this Cortez Acosta guy. I just think he is the more athletic guy, the more powerful guy. He really only had like a jab. His jab was nice, and then an overhand right. That's really all I kept seeing from him the whole time. And then he's also a heavy dude. If he got takedowns himself, he could probably have a lot of success landing ground and pound and probably finish Vandera, to be honest with you. So, yeah, I want to target both sides of this fight. It's going to be in the majority of my lineups, more so on the favorite side, but I have more interest in Vandera, I would say, than the field will. So I'd be fine going over 10% Vandera. I would honestly rather have Vandera in a lineup than Arlovsky, to be honest with you.
I'm not disagreeing at all because I think, again, we talked about with Gore, like most people would be like, oh, I don't want to play Jared Vandera in my team, right? Especially in a single lineup. Like,
yeah, exactly.
If you're putting one bullet in, you probably aren't going to put him on your team. Probably not. But again, game theory, right? Like, he probably won't have a ton of ownership. I mean, probably have a decent. What are you projecting for him? Like 20%?
I haven't done ownership yet, but I would imagine I put him sub 15.
Okay, so even a little bit less. Yeah, it's possible. And hey, like you said, he goes out there and knocks this dude out. I mean, you have the guy that could break the slate, right? So again, he could survive and then come back late. That's the one thing I'm worried about, like just him surviving and then Costa punching himself out. It's MMA, Kyle. We've seen that happen before. It's not like it can't happen.
Yeah, and if that happens, I mean, Vandera could put up 100+ points here and just absolutely break the slate. So yeah, I want to load up on this fight. This will be a top 3 fight for me, I would say. This one, the Hawes fight that we mentioned, and then the main event later will probably be my highest 3 that I'm just trying to target in most lineups.
Right on. That's totally fair. Yep.
Next one on the card, we have Max Griffin minus 190 against Tim Means plus 160. I went with Griffin here. He is the younger fighter here. Means hasn't looked too great lately. Griffin has a knockdown in like his last 3 or 4 fights. I think if he gets a knockdown here, he could possibly finish Means. I think he could land a couple takedowns against Means. But I don't know that he scores well in a decision against Means, so I don't want a whole lot of exposure on DraftKings. And then I also do think Means is live here. Just if he can keep a striking match, I could see him being the higher volume guy, landing some clean shots on the feet. He's got solid elbows. He's good in the clinch. He could land a couple takedowns his own. So I would say I'm more interested in Means because it'll be easier for him to 10x his price tag than it will for Griffin. But I am going to pick Griffin to get the win. How do you see this one going now?
Yeah, I have the same read as you. I think Griffin's the better fighter, more well-rounded fighter, I should say. Means a great striker. That's the thing. He's got the path to victory with the knockout if the fight stays on the feet, which I think it's going to be like an MMA fight, man. I think you'll see Griffin mixing in takedowns too, though, because we've seen Tim Means fight for, over 10 years now. Like, we know that the ground game is not amazing, right? And that's kind of what I think the fight's going to play out like. Just a close fight, but Griffin mixing in more takedowns. I don't have a ton of interest in this one personally, but I would lean Griffin by decision. That's kind of what I think the fight probably goes a distance in this one.
I agree. I picked Griffin to win a decision, and that's why I just don't care for him too much at 8,800 on DraftKings. Now, he's going to need a knockdown if he's going to win a decision here to have a chance at the optimal lineup, and that's not something I like to bank on. So I would just rather take my chances on the underdog and hope that I'm wrong with my prediction on that one. So it'll be more so Means or pass for me on there.
Fair enough.
All right, next one on the card, man. I'm just excited for this fight. We got 25 minutes to work with, so I would imagine the mid-range price to fight of the week, Arnold Allen 8,200 and Kattar 8K. They're going to have a good chance at the optimal lineup. We got Arnold Allen, the very slight favorite, minus 115 against Calvin Kattar, minus 105. I don't have a strong lean. I think this is a coin flip. I picked Kattar because, just that plus number next to his name, basically. But do you have a lean either way in this one?
I'm with you. Like, the line's been kind of up and down this week. Like, earlier in the week, it was like minus 120 or minus 130 now on a Kattar. Now he's down to basically a pick 'em. It looks like pretty much everyone's split on this fight, Kyle, from what I've seen. I've seen some strong takes either way, which I find surprising because, like, I feel like it's a very competitive fight. It's a tough one to pick, man. Like, but at the same time, you're getting you. I think you almost have to bet it because, first off, it's a pick 'em fight. Like you're getting essentially even money on one of these guys. If you want action, this is the fight to bet on. It's a 5-round fight. Should be a great fight. For me, I cap out Kattar like where he was earlier this week, -130, -140. Like so for me at +100, I have to take a shot on him personally, just for a unit, right? But I have to. And Allen is a good fighter, and he's obviously undefeated in the UFC. But the thing is, Kyle, like I think a lot of people would be undefeated if they fought some of the guys he's fought. I know recently he stepped up a little bit with Hooker and Yusuf, but the guy's been in like me and you we've known each other actually basically since Counter Move died. That's how long he's been in the UFC since, and he's got like what 9 fights. He fights once a year. It's just hard to get a great read on this guy. Or all out. I think he's good, but I don't know if he's great. Whereas Kattar, like listen, like he can be up and down. Obviously, his record's a little bit up and down, but the guy is super tough. So this fight's probably going 5 rounds. So Allen's going to have to outstrike him for 5 rounds. He's going to have to win 3 of the 5. It's possible. Josh Emmett just did it, I guess. I don't know. I think Kattar's just really, really tough. He's going to be walking forward. He's going to out-tough this dude. That's how I think the fight goes. I think it goes the distance. What's the odds? Let me check the odds. Fight over 4.5 is -135 I'm looking at. Like, I think that's probably the way it goes, Kyle. I think it probably goes over 4.5 with Kattar edging up because I think he'll do more damage over the course of the 5 rounds. And I think that it's going to be probably fight of the night too. First off, it's crazy, right? Sometimes you get stuck on these pay-per-view cards with like all these like big names. You get an amazing finish on the undercard, you're not getting a bonus. This card is not that great. Some people could definitely get a bonus on this one. I think these guys are in the running for that. It's a damn shame because I remember you first messaged me while doing your podcast. You're like, hey man, these are the options. Here's Edson Barboza and Ilya Topuria. I'm like, oh fuck yeah, let's do it. And then that fight gets canceled. This is still a good main event, but I was really looking forward to that one, man.
I was too, yeah. I mean, I'm really looking forward to this fight as well, but not as much as I was the other one because I would have had a lean in that other fight where this is a coin flip to me. I wouldn't want to lay juice on either side, but if you give me like +125, I'd be fine taking either guy. So I ended up going with Kattar just because I think he's going to be leading on strikes throughout the course of the 25 minutes, but Allen came out of the gates hot in his last fight, put away Dan Hooker. I mean, if he can step up his pace, then Kattar's hittable. I mean, he's eating over 7 strikes per minute when he's only landing out 5, and Arnold's kind of hard to hit. So I just wouldn't expect the same volume from Kattar here, and maybe somewhere in between on the Allen. And I do favor Allen if the fight hits the ground. It's just I can't trust Allen to be high volume. So I don't know, man. In a coin flip, I went with the volume edge over to Kattar. And I just think that whoever wins this fight is going to have a chance to score 100 plus because it is 5 rounds. And I would say that they're likely to score over 10x as the mid-range price fight of the week. So I think I just want to be, all in almost 90% to 100% of my lineups. I want this fight in it. And I'll take the $200 savings as Kattar to be my preferred play. I'd rather have him and use that 200 somewhere else. But if I don't have, Kattar in a lineup, I would like Allen to be in there because I do think the winner ends up on that optimal lineup. And I'm just going to let the domination station over at DFS Army control this fight for me. I'll get the projections in later in the week, and I'll load up on those 3 fights that I mentioned and hope that I can hit the right combo. If you guys don't have an optimizer yet, go over to dfsarmy.com, sign up with promo code sleeveless. That'll save you 10% every month. We got all sports. We got tools for all sports. I think you guys will like it. But that'll be my plan for this fight. Do you have anything that you want to add about this one?
No. I just wanted to say, man, thanks for having me on finally. Like, to do the podcast with you was a lot of fun. But as far as this fight goes, yeah, I mean, I think I've said enough about it. I think it's going to be a great fight. I'll just say that.
Hell yeah. And then to end each podcast, we like to do a kill shot. So somebody we think will go, overlooked by the field, but could be the key to that 100K lineup. Do you have somebody in mind for this card, Adam?
That's a great question. And I've been thinking about it since you asked me the other day. Honestly, it'll probably be one of these dogs that we're like kind of on the fence about, like a Gore or a Vandera, Again, I don't think they win, but if they do and you have them on your team, you're gonna be up on the field. and that's what we're trying to do here, right? We're trying to get that
Yeah,
edge.
that's a
So
kill shot. That sounds like a kill shot.
I would say one of those guys that just, you know, do you have the guts to, you know, put your hard-earned money on with those guys? Maybe though, because if you're right, you could take me home that 100K, and that'd be nice.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't mind throwing the $18 or whatever it is away, like expect to
Yeah.
lose, but maybe something good happens and it's your night, turns into 100K. So yeah, I'm totally cool with someone like that, like a Trayshawn Gore, because as we mentioned, he will be low on. So that's a legit kill shot if it comes through. I'm gonna go ahead and take Durden because he is an underdog that I'm picking to win, and I just think if he wins, he's likely to score over 10x, and he has 100-point potential as well. So I'll go with Cody Durden on a card where I don't really care for a lot of underdogs. I'm sure I will end up overweight to the field on Cody Durden. But thank you very much, Adam, for coming on the show. If you want to promote anything, man, the floor is yours.
Guys, follow me on Twitter at Adam Martin. I'm always there talking about MMA. I'm not as active as I used to be, Kyle. I got a kid now, so like my focus is elsewhere. As I know yours is too. I think you have 1 or 2 kids. I can't remember.
I got 2 now. Yeah, so I haven't been
right?
as active either.
Do you know exactly what I'm saying, man? I got a 1-year-old, right? So it's crazy. But I still watch the sport every weekend. Dude, I'm still loving it, man. I love the sport. Like we've been doing this so long, man. There's been so many people that come and gone from the sport, covering the sport. I'm never gonna know this guy. This is like a lifelong thing for me. I know you're the same way. So that's why I love coming to your show, man, because you have the same passion I do for it. Bookies.com, that's my main home. I got my best bets there for UFC Vegas 63 every week. Got my best bets, and then MMAOddsBreaker.com. Got to plug those guys. Nick Kalikas, obviously, you're part of the team there as well, Kyle. So just wanted to say thanks again, man.
Hey, man, thank you. I appreciate you coming on. I love chopping it up with you. Good luck to you this weekend. Hopefully you win something. Good luck to everybody listening. Go out there, take down a tournament. See you guys next time.